I couldn't sleep all night. A foghorn was growing incessantly on the sound, and I tossed half sick between grotesque reality and savage, frightening dreams. I felt that I had something to tell him, something to warn him about, and morning would be too late.
Nothing happened. I waited, and about 4 o'clock she came to the window and stood there for a minute, and then turned out the light.
His house had never seemed so enormous to me as it did that night. There was an inexplicable amount of dust everywhere, and the rooms were musty, as though they hadn't been aired for many days. You want to go away. It's certain that they'll trace the car back to you.
Go away now, old sport?
Just go away for a week to Atlantic City, or even up in Montreal. He wouldn't consider it. He couldn't possibly leave Daisy until he knew what she was going to do. He was clutching at some last hope, and I couldn't bear to shake him free.
I can't describe to you how surprised I was to find out I loved her, old sport. I even hoped for a while that she'd throw me over, but she didn't, because she was in love with me too. She thought I knew a lot because I knew different things from her. Well, there I was, way off my ambitions, getting deeper in love every minute, and all of a sudden, I didn't care. What was the use of doing great things if I could have a better time telling her what I was going to do? I don't think she ever loved him. You must remember, old sport. She was very excited this afternoon. He told her those things in a way that frightened her. He made it seem as if I was some kind of cheap sharper. And the result was, she didn't even know what she was saying. In any case, it was just personal.
He might have despised himself, for he had certainly taken her under false pretenses. It was 9 o'clock when we finished breakfast and went out onto the porch. The night had made a sharp difference in the weather, and there was an autumn flavor in the air. The gardener, one of Gatsby's former servants, came to the foot of the steps.
I'm going to drain the pool today, Mr. Gatsby. The leaves will start falling soon, and there's always trouble with the pipes.
No, don't do it today. You know, old sport, I haven't used that pool all summer.
It's 12 minutes to my train. I'll call you.
Do, old sport.
Call you about noon. I didn't want to go to the city. I wasn't worth a decent stroke of work, but it was more than that. I didn't want to leave Gatsby. I missed that train, and then another before I could get myself away.
And I suppose Daisy will call too?
I suppose so. Well, goodbye. They're a rotten crowd, but you're worth the whole damn bunch put together. Goodbye, Gatsby. I enjoyed breakfast. I've always been glad I said that. It was the only compliment I ever gave him, because I disapproved of him from beginning to end. First he nodded politely, and then his face broke into that radiant and understanding smile. as if we'd been in ecstatic cahoots on the fact the whole time. His gorgeous pink rag of a suit made a bright spot of color against the white steps, and I thought of the night when I first came to his ancestral home 3 months before. The lawn and the drive had been crowded with the faces of those who guessed at his corruption, and he had stood on those steps, concealing his incorruptible dream as he waved them goodbye.
Such a weird angle.
It's the only thing we can do. That's kind of hastily put together, but what are you going to do? I guess we can start off talking about the first scene with Nick coming in and seeing you and on the table. What does the music stand for there?
So we use the music there for kind of a depressed mood. It's very kind of slow and dramatic for representing the time after Myrtle just died.
With the black and white representing the flashbacks as Nick, like, retelling his story, and the color sections are him, just, reflecting back on it. It's a pretty generic thing you can do there.
The next scene, so Gatsby moves over into the next room, and we had myself, leaning against the window, kind of as more of a dramatic effect, showing that Gatsby is very, very stressed out. And
yeah, especially since also, once again, in the last chapter, it mentions at the very end how Nick leaves Gatsby looking at nothing, as sort of trying to keep a grasp on this dream that he has of getting Daisy. Him as Gatsby looking over into nothing very well represents him also, with his mental battle. He has this dream that he just desperately doesn't want to let go. Because if he lets it go, what else does he have?
Yeah, and you see that more through the next scene we do, where Gatsby and Nick are having a conversation, and you can see through Gatsby's body language and just the way he expresses his words. We tried really hard to emphasize what Gatsby's thinking or how he's feeling through what he's saying and how he says it. So when he's talking, he uses a lot of body language, and he's really trying to be hopeful that he hasn't lost Daisy yet. Nick is respectfully listening because at this point in the book, he really cares about Gatsby.
I don't know if you noticed throughout if you were paying attention, there were like the quick flashes of George. Well, it was supposed to be George and the mulch yards, which were supposed to represent the Valley of the Ashes, and just a really crappy place. Having George alone in those areas, we thought was able to represent his isolation that he feels. He just lost his wife, who he did care about. Unfortunately, she didn't care about him, but he's just in a pretty enraged state of mind, and having filmed in that particular area, we thought could capture the isolation that he's feeling a bit more, and I guess the vibe of the Valley of the Ashes.